Thanks so much for being here today. Rode the Von Lane up here today, so not a train, but it was a comfortable bus. I want to welcome everybody who's come here to talk about rail. Really excited to be here. I want to thank you, Peter, for hosting us, inviting me to share some thoughts with you all today about what we're working on in Travis County, Austin, Texas. So I'm the county judge, as he mentioned. We do the policy for the counties. Clay Jenkins is the county judge in Dallas, if y'all have heard of him. He's been there a little longer than I have. But one of the great things is that we get to look at policy for the county. And so like Peter mentioned, one of those two policies I'm working on trying to get a mental health diversion center in Travis County, because almost pretty much half of our jail population has an unmet mental health need. And it's hard for us to hire people to work in the jail. It is very hard on people who end up in the jail who really need mental health help. So we're trying to do that better and build a mental health diversion center. Also trying to get more passenger rail between Austin and San Antonio in particular, but across Texas would be wonderful as well. So wasn't too long ago when I grew up in Austin. My mom is from San Antonio, so we used to take trips to San Antonio to visit her parents when I was little. And it seemed both that San Antonio was really far away, but it also only took us 70 minutes to get there. It was 70 miles away. And that has changed for the worse since then. I think if any of y'all have tried to take that commute, I know the Bexar County judge and I are friends and working on rail together, and he was coming up to an event here. I think it took him something like 4 hours at one point, and then it can take 2 hours pretty consistently. Sometimes there are times when it takes short amounts of time, but it's really unpredictable. It is unsafe. It's unpleasant. It's not a fun drive, I wouldn't say, from Austin to San Antonio. And so Travis County, Bexar County, that whole region is one of the fastest growing in the country. And I know that the Dallas-Fort Worth area knows a little bit about growing fast, but we currently have about 5 million residents between Austin and Travis County. We estimate that we'll have about 8 million by 2050, so that's a big increase, especially for us. For when I grew up in Austin, I think we're about 370,000, something like that. Part of my job as county judge is to address the inequities that we have, and if we're going to be growing this fast and becoming one of these super regions, we need to make sure that we continue to boom, that we have a great economy. And that means working to make sure that everybody has great access to transportation, that people can access safe, reliable, and timely transportation, and that if you decide that you want to live somewhere in between Austin and San Antonio and work in one of the two, that you should have an efficient, quick, safe way to get to work, to commute to work. And today we just don't have that in the region. Our 5,000 employees that work for Travis County government, more and more of them are moving away from the city center in Austin to surrounding suburbs or even neighboring counties, because Austin's now the most expensive city to live in Texas. And to make Travis County accessible and equitable, we really need better public transportation, and to me that means better passenger rail. So we've got growing populations and connected infrastructure between cities, or in the cities somewhat. We're working on that in Austin a little bit, but we really just don't have that in between the cities. So we're seizing the moment, and we need to seize the moment with this once-in-a-lifetime funding that we have from the Biden administration, from the bipartisan infrastructure law, and we need to advance passenger rail in Texas and across the country and really take advantage of this. Last week, I know, and y'all probably heard about this or may hear about it more tomorrow, that President Biden met with Japan's Prime Minister to discuss the first high-speed rail project, hopefully linking Dallas and Houston. Would be absolutely amazing if we did that. That would be a great step forward. This would reduce our travel time between Austin and Dallas, so instead of sitting on the very nice Von Lane bus for 3 hours or so, we could get in between our two communities in about 90 minutes or so if it was to come on down to Austin from College Station. That would be incredibly exciting. I'm a little bit disappointed that the Austin to San Antonio corridor connecting part of these super regions was excluded from the first round of grant awards from the Federal Rail Administration's Corridor Identification and Development Program, but we are not completely off track. My understanding is that 7 other projects in connecting cities in Texas are getting that $500,000 grant to study and develop the scope schedule, and cost estimate for preparing service development plans in these corridors. And my understanding is that the fact that the Dallas station, the Austin station, the San Antonio station are sort of in the other lines, that we won't be too far behind. We need to get these projects moving so we can hop on board, and we'll be ready to support an application during the next round of funding for the I-35 corridor between San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas. This historic investment that I don't think we've seen since maybe President Eisenhower with the National Interstate and Defense Highways Act in 1956 that created the National Interstate Highway System. We really need to thank, in my opinion, President Biden for creating this momentum towards investment and commitment for rail service across the country. And I'm looking forward to doing what I can to help bring that to Texas. So as you heard, I'm building a statewide coalition of support from our federal and state representatives to county judges, mayors, council members across the state to see how we can get this done as quickly as possible. And I'm excited to partner with my good friend and colleague, Bexar County Judge Peter Sakai, also relatively new to being county judge, although he's been in county government for a while. We have watched the Spurs play together in San Antonio and in Austin, and we're both very excited for the chance to get to each other's Spurs games by taking a train instead of I-35. So I think what we're trying to do is to work across party lines. I know that there are Republicans in Texas, there's Democrats in Texas that are all in favor of passenger rail expansion. And so what I'm trying to work on is reaching out to other county judges who are in parties that are not in my party, reaching out to others that are in my party too, but really coming together on how this is an economic development issue, it's a safety issue, it's an environmental issue, and it really would improve our state, and in particular, the Austin-Travis County corridor. I understand that other corridors around the state are also organizing their coalitions. I know the I-20 corridor, talked to y'all a little bit before this, it's exciting, and I think that we'll have good opportunities to start working together to put our two coalitions together and see how far we can get. I also recently, are we hearing from Brightline? Are they here at this conference, or has anyone talked to them? So I rode Brightline in Florida when I was there for a NACO, a National Association of Counties conference a while back. Seems like a good option too. And really in Austin and Travis County, I think we're in favor of any of the options, either expanding Amtrak service, which would be absolutely amazing and seems like it could be the quickest route to getting expanded service up and down this corridor. Of course, it will take us working with our partners at Union Pacific. Recently, Judge Sakai and I went up to DC to meet with Union Pacific to talk about partnerships that could work for the Austin-Travis County area. They cited several examples across the country where they are working well. They said they're working well with passenger rail service, and so we're looking at those other arrangements to see if we can get something similar going in the Austin-Travis County, Dallas corridor to expand Amtrak service on that line. Some things that we have talked about is, and I talked about real recently with the Union Pacific representative here today, is just what are the concrete steps that we can take to make it happen more quickly in the Austin to San Antonio corridor. Some of those could be double tracking, figuring out ways to find either local funding or working with the state legislature to get funding to pay that 10 or 20% match that the federal government is offering us. And I think there are real ways to do that. And I think that is something that we've been working on in many different ways for a very, very long time, but I'm ready to go ahead and get it done. Let's see. One of the biggest things that Judge Sakai and I have noticed is that there is not a lot, at least in the Austin to San Antonio corridor, there's not any opposition to doing this. There are, from the sports teams of the Spurs, from the Austin FC soccer team, to Circuit of the Americas, to the Samsung plant that's being built in Austin, to Tesla. There's just so much industry that depends on people being able to get around that super region, and it's only going to grow in need over the next 5, 10, 20 years. It's sad to me that we haven't done this previously in the Austin-Travis County corridor, but I think that there is a real opportunity to get this done now, and I'm ready to get to work. A passenger rail system not only broadens our transportation choices, but it also enhances the infrastructure crucial for improving the quality of life for people in Austin and Travis County in Texas, and that's really what matters here. It means easier access to affordable education, easier access to affordable housing, employment opportunities, economic development, and a secure and healthy environment where Travis County and Texas can emerge as a beacon of progress and economic growth for our residents. So that's the future that I'm fighting for, building a more inclusive and thriving Travis County and Texas that we can all take pride in, that we can get around easily in. And I know that so many of you, that all of you in this room are working to bring this dream to Americans all across the country. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing to make this a reality. So I really want to thank the Southwestern Rail Conference for hosting me today, allowing me to share some thoughts on this. And I think we've got a couple pictures that might pop up, but I was just trying to look around at other cities around the world that are similar in size to Austin and San Antonio that have really robust passenger rail systems, and I'd love to become one of them. So Leipzig, Germany, has got one. San Diego, California, a little bit more active than we are. Utrecht, Netherlands, much more active passenger rail system, about the size of Travis County. Osaka, Japan, obviously, a little bigger than Bexar County, but has wonderful passenger rail network. So we want to catch up to the rest of the world. We want to make Texas and Austin and San Antonio a better place to get around in, and I am here to help. If y'all have any other ideas about things I need to focus on to help move this forward, please let me know. And if you're in Austin, please give me a shout. Thank y'all very much.
Okay, Judge, before you run away here, let's see if we have any questions from our audience today.
Yes, sir.
Peter Allen, Railway Age. Familiar with Austin? What is happening now?
Oh, yeah, I think they're getting you a mic, David. Or I could just restate if you want to say your question.
Didn't know you'd have to come from all the way back there. Thank you, John. Okay, my question is, I'm quite familiar with Austin, know the advocates there. And what is happening today really on three fronts? One is to fill in the schedule on the Metro Rail Red Line to make it a full-time service. And two, to start building the other lines that the voters approved a few years ago. And three, is anything happening with the proposed Lone Star corridor that would go from Georgetown to San Antonio through Austin? I never heard a thing since I attended a poster session before the virus hit.
Great question. So you're talking about Project Connect, which I support but have absolutely nothing to do with. So there's an inside of Austin sort of rail system that voters approved and is being built out and discussed at many levels right now. Not an expert on that. That's Capital Metro is running that, but it does seem like it's going forward. My understanding of Lone Star Rail is that, so we're talking to a lot of folks who were interested in that to see what we can learn from that effort and where we can, what direction we can go from there. I know that it seems to me, just sitting here today, the most likely way to quickly get more passenger rail service between Austin and San Antonio is to go through the process with the federal government right now to expand Amtrak service, to work out a deal with Union Pacific and see where we can get. I'm also would love to have high-speed rail, would love to have private providers like Brightline come in and do it, but it seems sitting here today from talking to Todd and to local elected officials that if we can work something out that is mutually beneficial with Union Pacific, and we're making sure that we're talking to them from the very beginning, that could be the quickest way to getting increased frequency between what you described of a little bit north of Austin down to San Antonio. Was that any sort of answer that satisfies you? A little bit. And I did hear some encouraging news this morning that I think that, Governor Patrick did put out some interim studies. One of them does mention I believe, passenger rail, so I'm excited to see where we can go with that, working with the interim committee at the Senate, see if there's feedback that maybe we could give as county judges across this line and across other lines in Texas as to where we'd like to see that go. Is that, yes, sir, in the back?
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Pablo. I'm with KERA in the Texas newsroom, the NPR stations across Texas. And I have a couple questions. First, about you're talking about supporting passenger rail in the Austin-San Antonio area. And I just want to clarify, just so I get it right, you're supporting high-speed rail or passenger rail, or are you trying to expand the Texas Eagle Amtrak? Like, what exactly are you?
Great question. So I think what I am doing right now is looking at all the different options. I would support anything that we can get to increase passenger rail service, especially between Austin and San Antonio. My understanding of high-speed rail is that that currently is more focused right now, Dallas, College Station to Houston, and any lines coming to Austin would be, down the road a little bit. So I think the most realistic way to get it most quickly is what I just described, working through the FRA process, trying to increase Amtrak frequency along that line. We currently have one train that goes north and one train that goes south each day through Austin. So it'd be great to get 5 to 10 trains if we're able to work something out in partnership with Union Pacific.
Okay. And my second question is really about the Metro Red Line, and you might not have anything to do with this, but why isn't there service on Sundays? Because I've tried to go to Austin, and I've spent some time there to see some friends, and on Sundays there's no Metro Red Line, and I guess that's something more for like your constituents or something, but
Yeah, it's I would love it too. I ride that with my kids on weekends or on Saturdays, I guess. Would love to see it on Sundays. I don't know why there is or is not, or why there is not service on Sundays. Happy to talk to my friends at Capital Metro and let them know that KERA would like to know.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just making sure it's my turn. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think that it's really encouraging and motivating to hear you speak as a county judge and to know that there are other county judges like you in Texas. I wanted to ask you, we're from an MPO or from South Texas, and there's two things. One is, how are you working with your MPO or your COG to get passenger rail into the area? And my second question, you can answer them separately, is have you thought about using safety funding to further your projects, even if it's for studies, because public transportation is the safest transportation option? So
it's a great idea. So for some reason, somebody had the brilliant idea of splitting our COG from our MPO in Central Texas, which I don't really understand why that happened. But so we've got Campo that I'm a member of, and then the COG separately that I'm a member of. I've been working with our MPO, which is Campo, to get this into the 2045, 2050 plan, because it was not in there currently. So we're trying to get that in there. I know that the Alamo area MPO, the AMPO just south of us, is also trying to do that. The new chair of that is a city council member in San Antonio who's very much interested in this, just like I am. So yeah, we're working together. We're trying to get it in that plan. I think that my understanding is makes it easier for the whole process, makes it easier for TxDOT to understand that the local entities want passenger rail in that plan and help us get into apply for the various grants. And safety funding, I'll look at that. That's a great idea. Had not looked at that yet.
I'll just say, I don't know if they've considered that, but since you are going to DC, you might as well start having those conversations to see if the rest of us can use safety funding for these projects.
Okay, I'll do it. Thank you. Great idea. Yes, sir.
Hey there, Greg from Cohesive. I've just got an idea in terms of how you're justifying the social economic benefits that you would have moving between San Antonio and Austin. Obviously, you say everyone here knows the benefits of it, but what about the rest of the people who would need to be sold? Are you doing a baseline study that would create metrics and then compare them to, when the time comes, of improved transportation, social benefit that you would get, like you say, from reducing commuter times and so on?
Yeah, great question. So the only study I have not yet done a study. The only study I've seen about that specific corridor is one that Clay blanking on his last name, has done and is sort of putting out there, that it would, looking at the number of trips on I-35, that it would reduce that by like a fourth or a fifth or something like that. So I think the idea is that if you like to drive your car on I-35 between Austin and San Antonio, that would get easier if we had passenger rail. If you would prefer to take passenger rail, then you would be among the, whatever it was, a quarter or 20% or so of people that currently are driving that would take passenger rail if it were an option. So yeah, we should probably get some funding and do more studies like that. That's the only one that I'm really familiar with for that specific corridor, but it shows that if we had it, it would make life better for people who both ride the rails and people that prefer to drive. So I'm not seeing a big downside there. Yes,
Judge,
Senator.
a lot of people that may be here from other jurisdictions do not understand the role of the county judge, and I appreciate your amplifying that earlier. The Commissioner's Court is effectively the county legislature, and the county judge is the presiding officer of the Commissioner's Court. He's also the chief budget officer. And as a chief policymaker, I think it is splendid that you're taking a leadership role in getting together other county judges from diverse counties across the state to speak with a united voice to tell the legislature that passenger rail is complementary to freight rail and that the two can work together, and particularly with the 80-20 federal match. This is an opportunity, as you said, of a lifetime for the counties and the cities to come together to approach the legislature and say, let's take advantage of this program, because it's only going to come around once. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Senator. You said that better than I did. Thank you, Senator. Yes, sir. Oh, you need the mic? Okay.
I'm Tom Compson from Houston, and I'm a member of the Rail Passengers Association. And I'd just like to amplify what that gentleman said. And I can tell you in Houston, I'm not sure our county judge or our new mayor even knows where the Amtrak station is or that we're on the service. So whatever you can do, whatever advice you can give us as residents, as voters, as advocates to get this on their radar screen, I'd certainly appreciate that, sir. So anything we can do with an RPA or TRA, I mean, we're ready to do it. So anything we can do to give you help, please let us know.
Thank you. I'll do that. Yes, sir. Got one over here.
Thank you, Judge, for being here with us today. I'm Gary Fickus, a commissioner here in this county, Tarrant County, in this district. So thank you again for being here. How do you propose to pay for this?
Good question. Thank you, Commissioner. So I think there are several ways. One that I'm trying to advocate for is getting the Texas legislature to put money towards it to match the federal offers of 80% funding. That's what I plan on doing by reaching out to other county judges, putting together a letter asking the state to consider that funding, asking the state to consider increased passenger rail service, and getting as many county judges, mayors, city council members, commissioners that we can to sign that letter, and then working with the state to figure out ways to find that funding. I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's the most realistic way to do it. There's some money that we have in our RMA, some potential funding. I just don't know that we're going to get all the way there without having the legislature on board. And so I think that's our challenge, is to show that we can work with Union Pacific, that we can find a way that it's mutually beneficial with them, and that something that gets great bipartisan support from local elected officials across the state. I think that's what I'm aiming on. That's the way I'm trying to help with the process. Hello.
welcome. I enjoy your enthusiasm. I'm Gina Bivens. I'm the chair of our MPO's Regional Transportation Council and the Mayor Pro Tem for Fort Worth. I just want you to know I'd have much more love for you if you would add Fort Worth when you describe where that train's going to go. And so just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I will. I
that's
appreciate that.
And on a more, and that is a serious note for me, but on
Sure.
a more serious note, yeah, I would suggest visiting the Texas Municipal League of Cities.
Okay.
And that way you knock out a whole swath of us at one time. And the county has its own body as well. But good luck. You probably will be out of office before this happens, but thank you for your energy. And again, remember those 2 words, Fort
Worth. I've heard of it. All right. Luckily, there's no term limits for county office in Texas, so. But I love Fort Worth, and I have ridden the Amtrak from Austin to Fort Worth many times, conveniently renting a car after I got there at, I think, the Enterprise right in the station, and gone to Dinosaur Valley State Park with my kids. I've done this like 3 times, and I always enjoy the time that I spend in Fort Worth on that trip, so good job. All right, any other questions, advice, gripes? Okay, well, thank you all very much. Really appreciate your attention.